Before we start the show, I want to let you all know the views, opinions, beliefs, and statements expressed are not necessarily those of KBeach Radio and Otaku Hourly. They are, in fact, of the host, guest, and/or caller. KBeach Radio and Otaku Hourly hold no responsibility for the validity and/or accuracy of information. Now, with that out of the way, here we go. Proud to be broadcasting from Cal State University, Long Beach. We are kbeach.org and KBeach FM, 88.1 FM, KKJZ, HD3, Long Beach, Los Angeles. Joining you for coffee at 10 o'clock. This is Otaku Hourly, your backdoor anime hangout. I'm your show host, Jonathan Joestar Beltran, and we just covered Anime Expo 2017. This week, we're going to be talking about industry partners such as Funimation, Sentai Filmworks, VIZ Media, Idea Factory International, and much more. We go into new releases, updates, announcements, and any specific details about certain animes that will be and have already been released. So with that being said, let's get into it. Starting up with Funimation. Next up, we talk with Jane of VIZ Media, where we actually get to look into Boruto, the rise of popularity of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and other and yet very important original works being published by VIZ Media. And here's the interview. More from Anime Expo right after this.
What up? This is DeJuan Campbell, aka DJ Soup. If you want to listen to the dopest hip-hop, smoothest R&B, and chill with the coolest hosts, then tune into The First Floor, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on KBeach Radio.
4 out of 5 sexual assaults are committed by someone known to the victim.
The YWCA Greater Los Angeles, in partnership with Cal State Long Beach, is committed to providing confidential support and advocacy services to survivors of sexual violence here at Cal State Long Beach. We pledge to honor survivors who have broken their silence and support victims who have yet to find their voice.
Campus Sexual Assault Victims Advocacy Services are located at the Women's and Gender Equity Center in LA1, room 102. Find more information at our website, csulb.edu/WGEC.
Classic hits at the beach on KBeach Radio with the even Richard Stevens.
Playing the great classic hits, even Richard Stevens.
Songs from the 60s, 70s, and 80s that made it on the charts are spanning the 60s, 70s, and 80s. All the classic hits. Ow! Catch it live Mondays at 4 p.m. and rebroadcast Sundays at 2 p.m.
Classic hits at the beach.
KBeach Radio. You're listening to Otaku Alley.
Hello everybody, this is the Dex here from Otaku Hourly, your writer and reporter from behind the scenes, and today I have some returning guests to the show.
It's David Alonso from Idea Factory International.
And Ari Advincula from Idea Factory International.
It's great to have you guys back on the show. I'm so sorry I missed you last time.
Oh yeah, it was great talking to Jonathan and the whole crew, and we'd like to come back sometime.
Yeah, it was great being on the show. You guys have an awesome campus.
Thank you so much. We're honored to hear that. So, I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about Cyberdimension Neptunia: Four Goddesses. So, can you actually tell us, our listeners, a little about the Hyperdimension Neptunia series as a whole?
So for people that aren't familiar with the Hyperdimension Neptunia series, it's a game that takes place in a world called Game Industry, where four goddesses fight for power over that world. So each goddess actually represents a game console. So you've got Neptune for Planet Neptune. She represents the Sega Neptune, which was never made. There's Blonde, who represents Lo Wii, and she is a Wii. There's Noir, who is the goddess of Last Station. That's the PlayStation, obviously. And then Vert for Leanbox, which is the Xbox. And they've all got distinct personalities that kind of match up with the system specs, and they've got little sisters that represent handhelds, and it's a super...
It's a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of meta. It's the game industry as a whole, and they're all in this giant console war, fighting for shares. So it's pretty much a parody on the game industry that you all probably know and love.
Yeah, and if I actually recall, each of the characters in the game, even the side characters, are based off different companies. The IF even has their own character, if I recall.
Yeah, there's...
we're actually wearing the jackets with her on it.
We're iffy.
Moving to our next question. So how do you feel that Cyberdimension Neptunia transitioned graphically from the previous Tamsoft Neptunia title?
So this is the first Tamsoft collaboration that we've done that's on the PS4, and this actually uses an Unreal Engine. So it looks super slick. The animations and everything are super bright and shiny, and there's a lot of
more movements that they can do, and they definitely have been really animated well. And I think it's just really cool to see the girls in action just go at it and be fluid on screen.
Yeah.
They look absolutely amazing. I saw a little bit of the gameplay myself. I noticed just how fluid it was, and just how crisp the graphics were.
Yeah, it looks great, and especially in this style of game where it's a hack and slash, that kind of movement and action vibe is like what we really want to carry over and show to the world, so it looks great.
All right, so can you give us your thoughts on the newest character designs of the goddesses and cast of Cyberdimension Neptunia? Do you have a favorite design?
Yeah, so in this game, it's kind of based on the idea that the goddesses are playing an MMO, like a fantasy MMO. So in the game, they have different costumes from their normal costumes that like reflect that MMO vibe. So Noir is a Black Knight and Neptune is Paladin, and I think it looks amazing.
Yeah, Bert's the Enchanter, and it all pretty much, it's cute because it matches their personalities. Like, hey, Bert loves MMO games, so of course she'd be the Enchanter and be able to support everybody in the team.
Yeah, it makes complete sense, especially especially considering how much the goddesses love to compete with one another, and actually be able to go into a game and compete.
But to answer your question, actually, Ram and Ram is my favorite design because they become like samurai ninja, and it's like a drastically different design than their originals. They're so cute.
If I actually heard correctly, I heard that their designs were actually reversed at one point.
Yes, that's what was said during the panel by Mizuno-san, I believe.
Yeah, Mizuno and Tsunako. So originally, Ram was going to be the ninja, and Ram was going to be the samurai. But they decided because of the motions of a samurai is more calm and cool and collected, they decided to have Ram be the samurai instead.
Interesting. So each of the classes kind of reflect and represent the character's personality and sort of how they go into the game.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's what's cool is that the classes themselves can keep that personality that people love intact.
All right. So if you mind, I want to move into Hakuoki Kyoto Wins.
Absolutely. I'm very ready for Hakuoki.
I can tell we're quite enthusiastic.
I love otome games. That's exactly why I actually wanted to start working here. So.
Yeah, actually, here at Taco Hourly, we would love to be able to cover more otome games. It's something we're interested in doing, as well as actually visual novels in general.
That's great. I think visual novels need that support to keep going.
All right, so moving to our first question, a pretty obvious one. So can you give us a brief description of the Hakuoki games for our listeners?
So Hakuoki is an otome game, and as otome games go, there are 12. Well, compared to other otome games, you've got a lot of bachelors to choose from. Especially for Hakuoki Kyoto Wins. You've got 12 this time, and they're all representative of historical samurai from the Bakumatsu period. So back then, these guys were actual historical famous figures, important figures during that time, but now you can date them, and they're hot, and they've got some sweet lines for you. So it's pretty awesome. It's like a history lesson and a romance lesson in one.
If I can ask, who's best husbando?
Oh my god, Kazama! We actually have him on auction right now. He is the best, but he's actually the only guy that's not a historical figure, and I think that's what's great about him. He's actually, and this is not a spoiler, he's a demon.
Interesting. I hope we maybe see some more merchandise in the future.
I would just love to see
would love that.
everything. Yeah, I just want to see so much more otome.
Yeah.
All right, so moving to the next question. If we understand this right, Hakuoki is the first half of what was a singular game. That the second half, Hana Show, has been released in Japan already. Do you have any updates on Hana Show or its possible localization at this time?
So we have announced the localization of the second part of the game when we announced the first localization for the first part. So basically, it's going to come out soon.
Yeah, we don't have a release date set for that one, but we are doing it.
Yeah, there's
and
just...
that's as much as we can reveal
that's
about
as much
it.
As we can say. And for the explanation on that, essentially, they just added so much more story plot. I mean, like 3 of the guys that weren't dateable before are now bachelors, and they added 3 more very important figures in Japanese history. So I think it's worth, it's worth the wait.
Interesting. So what do you actually think about the games being separated in the first place? Do you think it was a good move?
I think that it's interesting because they're kind of like chapters. Otomes are, the visual novel is a book, essentially. And the first chapter, they're in Kyoto, and the second chapter, they're in Edo. I know not everybody's happy about having cliffhangers, but we're doing what we can to localize everything in time and get that to our fans out there who are very excited for Hakuoki Kyoto Wins and for the next new romances they can encounter in the next game.
Where Hakuoki Kyoto Wins ends is kind of like that is the closing point for that part of her story. So the following part is a different time. It's a different place too. So they've got different themes and.
They even changed their clothes. They start wearing more Western style clothing, and that just reflects the the politics that were occurring during that time period.
Interesting. And I hear, other than just being a otome game, it has a very deep story, one that sort of brings in all kinds of fans, even people who don't typically play otome games. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, one of the biggest feedback we were receiving from reviewers was that, hey, I don't like otome games, or I'm not into bachelors, but I still enjoyed it on a historical level, or even on an art level, or on a music level. And I think that Hakuoki has all of these elements that everyone can enjoy. Where you don't have to play it as a romance. It could just be like a really great read about history and fantasy elements.
And plus, each character, each bachelor has such a distinct personality. So everyone's kind of naturally drawn to one person over another. Even if they're not looking for the romance aspect, you can't help but kind of fall in love a little bit. Yeah. And plus the history part. I mean, the game itself, it has like an encyclopedia that has dates and everything. So you get to learn about Japanese history while you're romancing these hot dudes. So who doesn't really want that?
I'll have to play sometime and find my husbando my own.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing who's your best boy.
All right, so last question. Yeah, you actually wore a Hakuoki cosplay at a cafe idea factory held a few months ago. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, I just love cosplaying at events, but essentially, Best Boy is Kazuma, wanted to represent, and it was freaking awesome because at the Hakuoki Cafe in particular, so many people were in cosplay, and if they weren't in cosplay, they had their Ita bags, they had their merch out, and it's great to be able to identify just from what someone's wearing or what they're showing off, which character they love. So I just wanted to come in there and rep Kazuma, And you know what, a lot of fans, there's a great positive feedback to that. I met a lot of great Kazuma fans that day. And Hakuoki fans.
And for the listeners at home, she is currently in cosplay in this moment right now as she's giving an interview. So she does love cosplay.
Yeah, that's my whole life.
Cosplay connects people.
It does, yeah. Cosplay, merch, and otome.
The whole otome otaku culture is the reason why we play these games and do anything is so we can talk about it with other people. Mm-hmm. That's why we do it. So
it's a shared experience. And that's even the reason we came out to Anime Expo, is to meet our fans and bring Sunako and Mizuno over to meet their fans overseas as well.
It was actually really amazing to interview them, and hopefully we'll have the press conference audio up at Otaku Hourly as well. We're really excited about that. Could you actually tell us a little bit about the cafe in itself, why you held it, perhaps if you're going to do any in the future?
So essentially, in Japan, they've been having these cafes. They have a whole bunch of cafes, actually, whenever they're promoting an event or sort. But the thing about Japan is everything is very community-based over there because there are a lot of niche titles and niche groups. It's actually the same over here in America. I went over there was a bunch of cafes. That was a lot of fun. I got to try out the Otome Cafe. Yeah. And so when we came back...
those cafes, they kind of theme it to a video game or an anime series, and they make the food based on characters' favorite foods in it. So it's a way to kind of immerse yourself in that world, and we wanted to bring that idea over to the West because that hasn't been done in an official capacity by publishers until we got to do it for Hakuoki, Kyoto Wins.
Especially for Hakuoki, it's been around for so long already, so that fan base has been made and they're ready and they were so excited and happy to be there. And that's exactly the kind of love that I want to feel in a room for Otome.
Yeah. I'd love to be able to see that community in action. Hopefully you'll have a few in the future.
We would love to do another one.
Yeah, definitely. Since there is a second part, it's definitely something that we're looking into doing.
Might come in the future.
Otaku Hourly would absolutely love to maybe attend one of them. We'd definitely love to maybe even cover it or just even talk about it on the show.
Of course you can. But first, you have to play Hakuoki Kyoto Wins.
So you can pick your husbando and get a picture with him.
Yes.
I'm excited then. So, any final words for our viewers? Sorry, for our listeners, they can't see us after all.
Just look out for Cyber Dimension Neptunia for Goddesses Online. That's coming out for PlayStation 4 and Steam. And that's set for a winter 2017 release.
And then we do also have Hakuoki Kyoto Wins out right now, but the second part is coming soon, so thank you all for patiently waiting.
All right, thank you so much for the interview. We're excited to do this again, and hopefully we'll have you in the future.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy the rest of your life.
All right, this is the Dex signing out.
The ChuniDex with Idea Factory International. For more information about their products and any other updates, you could go to www.ideafintel.com. Yeah, you're probably wondering, what in the world is Fintel? Well, that's basically how it's pronounced. So let me go ahead and try to spell it out for you. www.ideafintl.com. Now, from one video game company to another. The ChuniDex strikes again to Aksys Gaming. Let's look into the interview.
Hello, everybody. This is the Dex from Otaku Hourly, and we have a special guest with us today. Can you please introduce yourself?
Of course. My name is James. I'm the PR coordinator for Aksys Games.
Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right, so I want to dive into the Zero Escape series. So, can you give us a brief description for our audience about what Zero Escape's all about?
Well, Zero Escape is it's a 3-part trilogy of escape the room games combined with visual novel elements, and it's got a very big cult following here in the States. And if you haven't checked it out yet, I do recommend just starting with the Nonary games so you can get your hands on 999 and VLR, the 2 games that started it all for us.
Fantastic. I'm actually a very big fan of the series myself. So I have a question with regards to the third game, Zero Time Dilemma. So the third game in the Zero Escape series was actually believed to have been made due to heavy fan petition in the West. So do you believe that Western fans played a role in the creation of the franchise's final installment?
Oh, absolutely. I do feel that it's not only like speculation, I think it's more or less confirmed that without the support of the West and their voices, that the third edition would have never been made.
Yeah, I believe that it was. I believe it was called Operation Bluebird, if I understand.
I'm not exactly specifically sure like what they would have called it internally, but for the most part, it's not the first time we've seen like the demand from the West like reaching all the way to Japan. Like it's not necessarily game related, but there's also that anime series called Big O, for example, was another example of that where it was more popular in the West than in Japan, and that's how the rest of it got made.
Absolutely, like a series like Cowboy Bebop or Trigun. Moving on, I'd like to talk a little bit about Guilty Gear. So, can you tell us a little bit about the series?
Guilty Gear is it's a really old series at this point. One of the most one of the oldest 2D fighting game series. Just recently we released Guilty Gear Xrd Revelator 2. It's a mouthful, but it's the newest version. It's got beautiful it's got beautiful 3D models, but worked on as if 2D sprites. More or less, when you see these models, you assume that they're hand-drawn, but that's because the amount of work that goes into it is they take that 3D model, they shade it individually per frame, and then that's why it looks so beautiful.
That's absolutely amazing. Actually, that leads perfectly into my next question. So, Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2 introduces new characters with rather unique designs and surprises. So, what do you think about the newest additions to the series?
I think Answer is a character who you've never seen in a fighting game because he's a character like you've seen ninjas before, but a business ninja maybe not so much. His all the times when you play a fighting game, the characters will do some kind of like cheesy, like they'll like yell out their attack names and so on and so forth. Answer, like the whole time, he doesn't even like acknowledge he's fighting somebody because he's always talking on a cell phone instead. So he's just randomly babbling like Japanese businessman speak the whole time. It's really entertaining to hear. Baiken, of course, is a returning character. You can like feel the love in like when the developers when they made her. Their animations are absolutely beautiful. A lot of her old moves have been recreated in Xrd, and it's just fantastic to look at and to play.
That sounds amazing. I definitely tell that they put a lot of love into each of the characters, giving them unique traits and characteristics. I want to go into our final question for today. So, Blaze Blue, another popular Aksys game, has actually been considered a spiritual successor to the Guilty Gear franchise. So, how do you think this claim holds up?
I would say to some extent it does, but not necessarily. What part of it is that Arc System Works is the developer of the game. They have multiple teams, and that's who they use to create each of the games. So there may have been a significant amount of sometimes top players from the scene will join Arc System Works and work for them. So to some extent, that would be true because mentally, like their collective of like what we assume a great fighting game is kind of pulled together into that talent pool. So to some extent, it is, right? It's made by people who think that Guilty Gear was like the greatest game. But also on the flip side, because Blaze Blue's come such a long way at this point, and maybe when it first came out, it could have been considered something like that. But now that it's pretty much more or less its own thing, the fan bases are completely separate now. And there's kind of a generation gap between the two as well.
Interesting. How would you say that they differentiate, out of curiosity?
Because they're developed by different teams, I think that the battle designer and what they consider to be like what is the selling point of the series is really, really differentiated at this point. So, for example, you have BlazBlue, which has significantly more, like I would say, like Seiyu star power, for example. And they oftentimes, a lot of the popularity, even for myself at the time when the games first came out, were like Bruraji, for example, their Seiyu radio show, which is so like fun and interesting to watch. And like that's something that I really enjoyed from BlazBlue, just from like more of that anime Japanese aesthetic to it. Guilty Gear has kind of been more of like, it's been more of that, like they kind of like the rebirth of a classic. So they don't really necessarily have that kind of same star power, for example, but a lot of times, you know, it's just a really, really good fighting game. And in America, of course, like it's actually overtaken BlazBlue as far as like what the popular competitive fighting games are.
All right, one final question. Do you have a favorite character from either series?
Of course. Right now, my favorite BlazBlue character, I would say, is S, who's actually from X-Blaze. But she is currently my favorite character. I do love, I guess, that kind of aesthetic. She's kind of like just Saber, but, you know, a little bit more... like her assets are a little powered up, if you could say so. So I do really like her. And in Guilty Gear, my favorite character is Jack O, who is a new character from Guilty Gear Revelator. She's just really, really interesting. She's got mechanics from that kind of RTS hybrid they made. So it's just like, and a lot of really cool references to older Guilty Gear games. So she's my favorite character by far.
All right, so any final thoughts for our listeners today?
Hey, thanks so much for listening. Thanks for having me. Do check out our games. We've got, we at Aksys Games publish all kinds of games. So if you look at our catalog, just come take a look at what we did at the panel. You know, you'll find something you'll like.
Can you tell us a little about where we can find more Aksys games?
Absolutely. Just www.aksysgames.com. You can also find us at Twitter at Aksys Games.
Do you have any Steam titles?
We do have Steam titles. Most notably, we do have Tokyo Xanadu EX coming out by fall. So do check that out as well.
Absolutely. I highly recommend our viewers check everything out at Aksys Games. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, this is the Dex signing out. Thank you.
The ChuniDex with Aksys Gaming. For more information about their products and other information, you could go to their website, www.aksysgaming.com, or rather, if you want to spell out Aksys Gaming, it is AKSYS gaming.com. So let's flip-flop from video games to anime, where your homeboy, JoJo over here, gets to talk with Sentai Filmworks.
But the file says JoJo.
Be quiet. We're going to be going into the interview right now. Final AX industry interviews right after this.
This is Christian Wiseman, and I want you to come and bless the Lord with me. It's a gospel music show that plays just about anything you want to hear, be it old, new, a cappella, and those instrumentals. We're on live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. and also Sunday mornings on KBeach FM at 8 in the morning to get your Sundays off right. So come on and let's bless the Lord. Right here on KBeach Radio. Look, I got to take this break.
Let's take a pop quiz. Which of the following are some efficient techniques of recycling? A. Taking the bottle cap off plastic bottles before recycling them since only the actual bottle is recyclable. B. Crushing aluminum cans to fit as many cans into the recycling bin as possible and reduce the use of garbage bags. C. Placing all of your electronic waste into a box, then disposing of them at your local Goodwill or any certified e-waste center. Or D. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. For more information, email ASI Recycling at asi-recycling@csulb.edu. KBeach FM is a student-run radio station at Cal State University Long Beach. KBeach is supported by its listeners and members. Your support goes directly to the students who run KBeach Radio to cover programming, operations, and staff. You can support KBeach through our website. The donate button is on the top right side of the homepage at kbeach.org.
This is Richard Epcar. You're listening to Otaku Hourly.
So that was Bandai Namco, and let's jump in to our final interview of the week. The ChuniDex had the opportunity to interview Frontwing. Here is the interview.
Hello, everybody. This is Dex from Otaku Hourly, usually your reporter from behind the scenes. Today, here with a special guest. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. My name is Ian. I'm the international PR manager for Frontwing. We're a Japanese visual novel company.
It's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for accepting the interview.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, moving into our first question, can you tell our listeners a bit about the history of Frontwing and what it was like from the very beginning and also when you joined the company?
Absolutely. So, yeah, Frontwing started in 2000. It was born out of a smaller doujin circle. Doujins are fan-made, kind of independent Japanese games, and then we developed into a fully fledged company. And in the 17 years since that time, we've put out about a couple dozen titles. We usually do about a game a year or so. Our most popular series has been the Grisaya series that got an anime adaptation that was also brought over to the West and was very popular and successful both in Japan and outside of Japan. And so I joined the company about a year ago as the company was kind of ramping up its own internal overseas operations. About 2 years ago, we started working towards getting our products out overseas and in English. That started with a collaboration with Seikai Project to bring out the original Grisaya trilogy. And then from there, Frontwing started to build up its own international team. We have some translators, editors, and starting with me about a year ago, we now have international PR people as well. And in the past about year or so, we've managed to put out 9 titles for the overseas market, fully localized into English.
That's really awesome. I actually hope our viewers check out those titles. So, if I understand correctly, Frontwing consists of 30 employees, including an international team with only 8 to 9 people. So, what are the challenges and benefits of having a smaller team work on localization?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, some of the hugest benefits are the fact that the localization team can work directly and quickly with the developers and writers of the game to get their questions about the script answered, make sure that everything they're doing is as accurate and faithful to the original work as possible. And then for the PR side of things, it's very nice, again, for me to be able to, if I'm trying to figure out if it's okay to announce something or figure out what way I should present something, I can literally just turn my chair around and ask my boss rather than, having to send an email and perhaps wait for a time difference, that sort of thing. So that would be one of the disadvantages. Or I'll correct myself on that. So one of the disadvantages would be like if we had freelance people like based in the U.S. or something, it would be hard to bring everyone together. I'm stammering a bit. That about covers it.
Interesting. So, do you find that you have a closer relationship to the Japanese team due to having a smaller team in general?
Yeah, absolutely. We're very tightly knit in the office. We're, friendly with everyone. It's interesting. Just as a personal hobby, I'm into some underground Japanese electronic music, and it turned out that 3 of the other people in the marketing department are also involved in that same scene. So it's very much a familial, close, jovial place to work. Yeah.
Interesting. Who do you like?
In regards to the music.
Yeah, who do you like?
There's this underground genre of music called J-core, which is the kind of most well-known term for it. So the people at our company are involved with a circle called IOSYS, IOSYS, and so basically the general gist of it is, Japanese pop culture music combined with electronic music.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so at your panel, and actually just recently, you mentioned that your most popular series, Grisaya, was adapted into an anime. So what's your thoughts on future anime adaptations for even more of your games?
So yeah, we have already announced that upcoming there's going to be an anime adaptation of Island, And so that is something that's currently very much in full force getting worked on. We do have another anime adaptation of one of our properties in the works. We couldn't quite announce it yet, but we'll probably have news on that within the coming days, actually. And also, in general, just in the company, we've kind of started up essentially an internal anime branch. So even aside from adaptations of our own internal properties, we're going to be working on, developing possibly original anime properties or taking anime properties from Japan and helping bring them to the West.
Thank you, and I actually encourage everyone at Otaku Hourly to follow Frontwing to see how the anime adaptation news as well as visual novel news goes on in the upcoming days. So if I can move to the next question. So you started your panel, you stated at your panel that you used Kickstarter campaigns as a means to offer physical items, such as art books with the release of visual novels. How much, in your opinion, do your fans contribute to the experience of your products?
Yeah, so it's definitely very important for us to get fan feedback, both, about the way we release our products and, what kind of content is in our games and what kind of goods we put out, that sort of thing. So, yeah, crowdfunding is it can be a little bit of a touchy subject because not all of our campaigns are necessarily like, we have to hit this goal to put this game out. It's more just a way for us to make this stuff available to fans in a very simple way for us and them. And so, yeah, as we've done, I think since I joined, about 6 crowdfunding campaigns now, and just doing each one and interacting with the fans, in the comments and backers through emails and all of that gives us a better idea each time of how to make the next campaign better, what things to do, what things not to do. And it's, definitely a great way to not only within specifically the realm of Kickstarters, but just within our company activities in general to get an idea of what people are looking for from us and what they're not looking for.
As you were mentioning, do you believe then that communication with your fan base is what determines oftentimes the type of physical products and what you put out?
Oh, absolutely. So, with our Kickstarters, generally we kind of start with a base of the items that we've already prepared for production in Japan, but we always try with each campaign to make 2 or 3 exclusive rewards available for overseas fans, and so doing back and forth with that has let us know, what kind of things what specific items they're looking for, and that also has started, reflect back. So we start looking at that when we start deciding what kind of goods, what kind of merchandise to make for our future titles, not just for overseas, but worldwide. So for our in Japan item development kind of gets a little influenced by that as well.
I see. So, last question. So what do you believe what the next step to the international branch is in order to expand it, in order to make it much more well-known, or even just take it to the next level?
So I think it's definitely, as I mentioned before, we're branching out into the realm of anime. Obviously, visual novels are rather popular, but they're still a niche genre of games and also a niche genre of Japanese culture. So what we want to do is we want to kind of put the name Frontwing out there in a more visible space by, bringing out anime and more visible things, because obviously the anime is a much more approachable thing. We're at an anime convention that has over 100,000 attendees at it. You don't see visual novel conventions with that many people in America. So by doing that, we hope to bring more fans in and then have those fans, check out some of our older titles, check out some of our visual novels as well, and through that build both things and spread the word.
Fantastic. And I remember you saying at the panel that you can buy some of your visual novels on Steam?
Absolutely, yeah. So if you go to Steam and literally just search Frontwing, everything will pop up. So I'll just kind of go through the titles we have out now. We have Pre-Reno Party, which is actually a hybrid puzzle game and visual novel. And then we have, from the original Grisaia trilogy, there are 3 side stories that we've self-published. And then probably the most major thing we've put out so far is the Corona Blossom trilogy. That was released last year over the span of about 8 or 9 months. And then now the most recent thing is the Phantom Trigger series. Volumes 1 and 2 of that are on Steam now. So that's Grisaia Phantom Trigger. It's a follow-up to the original Grisaia trilogy. It's a new cast of characters in the same world. And so, as I said, yeah, Volumes 1 and 2 are on Steam now, and Volume 3 is coming July 28th, the end of this month.
Thank you. And any other places in which we can have access to your visual novels?
So yeah, we have currently our games themselves. Right now we're just on Steam, but we are looking into branching out to other places. And then obviously physical versions are going to be available through our crowdfunding campaigns.
All right, thank you so much for being on the show. Any final thoughts?
Thank you so much for having me here. I hope that anyone who listens to this will take a moment to check out our things, and maybe you'll see something you like.
Yeah, definitely go check out Frontwing.
Yeah, so if you just go to en.frontwing.jp, that's our English website. We actually recently kind of updated it for the first time in a while, and we'll be keeping that up to date as we go forward. And from there, you can find our social media links as well.
All right, you heard it here then. Go ahead and check out Frontwing's website. Go check out their Steam games. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, this is the Dex signing out.
Running out of fumes for the past 6 days and 2 years in the making, I do want to thank the ChuniDex for coverage, Marvin, Marth for photography. Even though we are an audio medium, we do have social media, so you can look at the pictures over there. Christian for coverage, audio engineering, and the person who forces me to get a break here and there for the past 6 days. And finally, I do want to thank Shreddie, Eddie, and imagEn for all the other audio engineering for all of these interviews. Next week on Otaku Hourly, we look into Anime Expo 2017. One of our crew members has this to say.
I like 2D on my wife who's not in 3D out there. That was an insane line out there. I didn't see the end of it.
I'm your show host, Jonathan Joestar Beltran. And until then, Oni-chan is always watching.